So today we'll be talking about what is unschooling. Now, there's not lots of different ways to describe unschooling. If you've heard of unschooling before, you might have heard it described as a way of parenting or schooling, which avoids rules. There's no bedtime, there's no time that you're meant to be sitting at the table doing your maths or your English. You can eat when you feel like eating. You can go to the bathroom when you feel like going to the bathroom. You can play outside when you feel like playing outside. It's very child-led. And while that's what unschooling looks like from the outside looking in, I'm going to go into more of the philosophy behind unschooling and what it means in terms of belief around child development. For me, my understanding of unschooling really started to develop when I realized that using coercive tactics, strategies, using the threat of punishment or the temptation of a reward as a way to coerce, manipulate my children into doing the things that I thought they should be doing, it wasn't effective. It made me unhappy and it made my children unhappy. What I realized really is that children are born with desires. They're born with innate curiosity and a desire to innovate and to apply creative problem solving in their lives. I do think that looking around at human civilization, that we've got a huge amount of innovation and creativity and things that we've come up with. I mean, I suppose we call this civilization. And I would say that the reason we have this is not because of compulsory schooling or because of well-meaning educators thrusting specific brands of knowledge onto our children. It's because humans are innately innovative. We're innately curious and innately creative. It's what we're like as a natural being. We don't need to be made to be this way. So ultimately, it's about not seeing our children as empty vessels or blank slates to be filled with our own ideas around what they need to know and what will be helpful for them in the world. It's about facilitating a space where children are able to flourish into their own sense of being, that they can pursue their own desires and their own curiosity. And ultimately, as an educator or a parent, it's about trusting that those innate desires and those curiosities are enough and that they will be enough, and that being in the world, seeing the world as it is, will be motivation enough for children to realize that they actually would like to learn to read, that actually learning a little bit of maths is a handy skill. And if you're in this world and you're experiencing our culture, even going to the supermarket, catching a train, whatever like that, you're going to see that there's words around. And at some point, you're going to be like, I want to understand what this is. I want to know what this is. And that when that comes from within the child, then that child has an intrinsic motivation to learn this thing. And it's motivated by something external in the world that has presented itself as a problem that they've wanted to overcome so that they can actually, have real life application. It hasn't come from someone being like, yo, you need to know this thing. This is gonna, make the difference between whether you can get a good job in the future, rah, rah, rah. As we're often want to do when we're impressing on children our ideas around what we think they should know. Intrinsic motivation is described as motivation that bubbles up from within. It's like that innate motivation rather than motivation which is thrust upon us through, artificial external motivators, the carrot and the stick kind of a thing. So ultimately, we're working with our children's innate, intrinsic motivation. I remember running a course one time on how brain development works, how learning works, how neurons work, about brain plasticity, about growth mentality, and how we can all ultimately learn anything we want. We're all going to be starting at different places, and we're all going to have, different capacities for our speed of learning. But ultimately, we can all learn anything we want. We've all got a nervous system, and we're basically learning machines. And I remember going to bed that night and thinking to myself, is that really all it comes down to? Like, yes, we can learn anything, but what makes the difference between whether we do or whether we don't? And I realized the answer is motivation. It all comes down to motivation. What is motivating us? And that when the motivation comes within, we learn faster, we retain the information better, we pair the information with what we already know better, and we learn at a much greater depth, in a way that creates a sense of real meaning and purpose and competence. We get to see that we can do the things we want to do in the world, that we are competent, that we have agency. It's a beautiful thing to see. So for me, unschooling is not just about not having rules, and it's not just about child-led. It's about trusting that a child's natural, innate curiosities are enough. Thank you.